Welcome into another episode of Teal the Show. We've got Frangie hanging out with us tonight. All right, Frank, Monday Night Football was Monday night, obviously, so we didn't have a Monday Night Teal the Show. Before we get into what's next, which is the Houston Texans, let's briefly, and I do mean briefly, talk about the disappointment from Monday night's Bills game. That was about as bad as it can get, right?
Yeah, that was one of those games that, look, everybody has them. You wouldn't feel so bad about it if you hadn't lost the two before that, Jamal. Yeah, it was as bad as it could get. That's a good analysis of it. The Bills were ready to play. The Jags weren't. They got hit in the mouth to start the game, and they never got off the deck. It was one of those games that, in fact, you rarely see a game like that in the NFL. You see them in college. I don't think the Jags were better than they played that night. The Bills were as good as they could have been that night. You know what? You brush it, you put it behind you, and you get on to the next one. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. What makes it sting and gives you concern is it comes on the heel of two other losses that were close losses, but losses nonetheless. But no, that was a tough one in Buffalo. No question about it, Jamal.
All right, let's turn the page. We got to start getting ready for those Houston Texans. All right, Frank, so this team is 0-3. They got to find a way to get a win this week, and they know that. Now, part of that is they can't be shaken by what's already happened this season. Now, talking to the guys in the locker room this week, they say the confidence is there, and it has to be, but they do know there has to be a little bit of extra urgency to go along with that confidence as they get ready for Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're frustrated, and the game the other night was just a disaster on pretty much every level. But, you know, we still have the confidence in our group, you know, our coaches, our team, and that's not going to change, and that can't change. You know, I think that's when you have problems, when you lose that confidence and you start pointing the fingers, and there's been none of that. So we're staying together, and that's just the message, is just stick together. Just remember to have fun, too. Like, you know, situations like this a lot of times make you get tight and tense, and be on your details and be locked in, and we got to prepare the right way and put everything into it during the week, but also have fun. You know, we're playing a game, and we have an opportunity to do things that not many people get to do. So keeping that perspective and let that relax you and let you play better. You know, not to say that it doesn't matter, because it does, and we take a lot of pride in it, but you also do have to have the perspective. I think that helps you play better and looser, because you want to go out there and fly around and not be thinking about everything and being able to go play free.
When losses kind of start to stack up, you do have to worry about if the confidence is shaken from this group. But right now, this Jaguars team does still feel pretty good about where they're at, all things considered, Frank.
Well, if you're going to lose 3 in a row, have it happen at the beginning of the season, so you got a lot of season left, Jamal. I think that's a big part of this. There's a lot of season left for this football team. And I still think it's a decent football team. I agree with what Doug Peterson said earlier in the week. There's a good team in there. They haven't played very well. Here's the good thing. If you somehow win this game, and that's a big thing, it's a tough team on the road, and they're not very happy either, because the Texans got rolled by Minnesota. But if you somehow find a way to win this game, Jamal, okay, now you're 1-3. You've got the Colts coming in there who haven't won here in 10 years, and they're playing a young quarterback. And then you go to London and play two teams who aren't accustomed to going to London, and both have young quarterbacks. So the way the schedule plays out, if you somehow can win this game, somehow, some way can win this thing on the road, I can see them going on a run. I know that sounds Pollyanna and sunshine pumper. I get it. But if you look at the schedule, it softens up a little bit for what they have to do if you can somehow win this game. That's why this one is so critical for the Jags. It really is.
You know, it's nice when me and you were on the same page, Frank. That was one of my questions for the guys in the locker room this week was, look, does it feel like where this team is right now, where it just kind of needs that one domino to fall their way, and then everything would start to fall into place and the team might be able to go on that run? Look, they do understand that they have a tough job going into Houston and trying to take down a tough Texans team, but this team is a talented bunch, and they do feel pretty good about their ability to possibly start putting the pieces together.
Focus on us, not focusing on the record, not focusing on the situation at hand, focusing on the process, focusing on, you know, what we want out of it ultimately, and that's obviously a Super Bowl, and, you know, start to win in our division. So this is a great opportunity to, it's like one win in your division is like 2 wins, really. So it's like, this is a great opportunity, like you said, for a possible domino effect.
That's what I mean when, you know, go earn some success, and go do what we have to do to get that success. And I think in that, there'll be a remembrance of who we are, the way we work, and what we're capable of. You know, you get in situations like this where everything seems like it's going the wrong way. You know, that can happen. But we have to go earn that, and we're right there.
Frank, it's really that simple. They just need to play a little bit of better football in a couple of places, and then all of a sudden maybe you can start seeing glimpses of that 8-3 football team that was just a year ago.
Yeah, I think what happens, Jamal, is one thing goes wrong and it affects the other things. For me, I still think they're not playing great in the trenches. If you're not affecting the other quarterback because your defensive line isn't playing as well, then guys are going to run open, particularly guys as skilled as those Bills players are. If you're not playing well on the offensive front, then your quarterback, his eye level is going to come down some. He's going to throw off his back foot some. He's going to expect the rush to get there. So I think you can patch up that a little bit and you play way better. I really believe that. I think line play is a concern for me, but I think it's led to some other things. And it's not the only thing. And I'm not claiming this the only thing. But I think it leads to some other things. So you patch up one thing, and I think they can. I think they've got good players, Jamal, that I think you fix a lot of other ills. Look, they're not that far off. They played 2 really close games. They got walloped one game, throw the tape away, burn the tape, and move on. But other than that, they've been in some games. They just have to find a way to win a game. That's what they've got to find a way to do.
Now, part of getting this thing on the right track and getting those dominoes to fall into the right place and finding a way to win a game is having their best players, simply put, play better. So far through this season, some of their best players have not played their best football. The guys in the locker room know that. They know they have to embrace that challenge, and part of being a good football team is having your best players make plays in crucial times.
You know, I think guys are just ready, like you said, to just move on from it. You know, the leaders in this locker room are just making sure that, you know, taking control, you know, of our each individual rooms. Not only focusing on how we can be better as a group, but pushing each other as individuals and just being really harsh with ourselves. You know, especially our great players. You know, our good players on this team, you got to play better, and we all need to step up and, you know, be able to lead. So it's kind of the message right now.
I mean, at the end of the day, we just need guys to show up and play better. That's one thing, too. We need our best players. We need our leaders to show up and play better. And you know, I take accountability in that on getting healthy so I can show up and do that. As far as, you know, leadership vocal-wise, you know, just remind guys of what we're doing, how blessed we are, the legacy that we have, the chance to leave with the name on our back plate and the team that we're playing for. So that's kind of the big thing here is obviously in this situation a lot of doubt and a lot of negativity can creep in. Keeping everything positive, keeping guys uplifted. And keep challenging guys to just raise their work up another level and look themselves in the mirror and, you know, things that can get fixed, fix them. Conversations that need to be have them. That's just kind of all I can do right now as far as leadership until I can get back on the field and, you know, lead with my play.
You know, Frank, sometimes it's just that simple. We talk about the X's and O's all the time, but sometimes it's just about the Jimmies and Joes.
Well, think about it. To the point about Evan Ingram, the point he made, he hasn't been able to play. That's killing him. He hasn't been able to play. And Christian Kirk finally got going last week. Look, the best players, to your point a moment ago, the best players on this team include Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne on the offensive side of the ball, and none of them have gotten going. I don't think Travis has had big holes. Evan has been down, and that's been a big blow, man. He's a big part of everything they've done offensively since Doug got here, and they haven't had him. And Christian Kirk finally got into the mix last week, but they were playing uphill the entire time. So, yeah, your good players have to play well. It's those 3 guys. It's Trevor Lawrence. It's Josh Hines, Allen, and Trayvon Walker. Those are the best players on the football team, and they've got to play well.
All right, we'll talk more about what they need to do this week against the Texans to score that W coming up next when Teal the Show returns. Welcome back here into Teal the Show. All right, Frank, look, this is the start of the next part of the schedule. We've talked about it being in quarters, Frank, and so far they're coming to the end of that first quarter of the season. Not great. But right around the corner is another quarter, and we always talk about in football, play the full 4 quarters.
Well, that's right. And so we said this at the first part of the show, that if you win here, you have games that you're probably going to be favored to win, home against the Colts, and then the 2 games, the Patriots and the Bears in London. Also think about this too, Jamal. They have played 3 quarterbacks now in Tua Tagovailoa, Deshaun Watson, and Josh Allen, who have been to 6 Pro Bowls between them, and have 6 playoff wins between them. Now, I know Deshaun's not what he once was. Josh Allen's as good as he's ever been. But they've played 6 veteran good quarterbacks, all of whom have been in the playoffs on a recent basis. Now they play younger quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud's a fantastic player, but he's been to 1 Pro Bowl. He's only been in the league 1 year. After that, they play young players. Anthony Richardson's still a very young player, 2nd year. It's either going to be Jacoby Brissett, but I think probably Drake May for the Patriots, a rookie. It's going to be Caleb Williams for the Bears, a rookie. You may play Malik Willis, if not as Jordan Love, a very young player. So they go from a stretch where they play these veteran quarterbacks who are accustomed to Pro Bowls and playoff wins, And they're playing a bunch of quarterbacks now that haven't done it. Now, that doesn't mean those guys aren't talented. I think they are. I think they play some good quarterbacks coming up. But they're young quarterbacks. They don't have the veteran presence that the guys they've played. So the schedule really does change. Again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you the reality is it's a different next 4 or 5 games than they've played so far.
All right, before we start looking at that next 4 or 5 games, let's start with this next game, the Houston Texans. If they're going to put together a win streak, you got to start with one, right? All right, this week against Houston. Frank, the Texans are a team that's tough, but it kind of looked like they ran into some trouble last week against Minnesota. Is there anything that maybe the Jaguars can take from that game to try and repeat it, to pick up that first W of the year they're searching for?
Yeah, the Texans committed a lot of penalties that game, 11, I think. I think Larry McTunzel, the offensive tackle, who's a very good player from Lake City nearby here, a good player. He had 5 of those penalties. So they haven't been efficient on offense. Their offensive line has been just okay. I think it's really critical for Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker to affect the pocket. Maybe with some blitz packaging. I think if you can get C.J. Stroud off his spot, we say that a lot, but the line's been just okay in Houston. That's been a little bit of a disappointment. What you don't want is him having all that time to throw to those really fast receivers. They had fast receivers before they got Stephon Diggs, and now they've got really fast receivers. So I think if you can find a way to affect the passer, I think that's the big thing. That's one thing I took from watching the Texans play so far. That's a real important part. Now, the other side you got to protect, because certainly Hunter and Will Anderson are great pass rushers. But I think who rushes the passer best, Jamal, will win this football game. That's how important that is.
Well, that is definitely a key to it. We talked to Trayvon Walker this week, and he said that, look, this defensive line knows that it's on their shoulders to go and wreak havoc. So if Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker can wreak some havoc, you got to like the Jaguars' chances. So, Frank, do you like the Jaguars' chances? We've reached that time of the show. Frank, do you think the Jaguars will walk off with a win?
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick them right now. The Texans are 2-1, Jamal. The Jags are 0-3. I think I like the Jags' chances in this game. I don't think they hang around. I think it's a fourth quarter game. I was talking to people in Houston earlier in the week, and everybody seems to think this is a fourth quarter game, no matter which side you're on. But it's hard for me to pick a win until I see one happen. So that's kind of where I am. I will say it again. If you find a way to get this one, then boy, I like where they're sitting despite how it started. But it's hard to pick them this game, at least until I see it happen one time.
That is a completely fair answer, Frank. That is a completely fair answer, because that is exactly the spot that I find myself in. It is tough to pick them to win until you see them do it once. And right now they're 0-3. We'll see if on Sunday they can score that first win of the year against the Houston Texans, and maybe on Monday night we're talking about a victory Monday for the first time this year, Frank. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Good night, everybody. Go Jags.